Okay, it's episode 3. Suzy and Loren, we're back.
Hi, everyone.
So we're talking about starseed traits, typical starseed traits today, right, Loren?
Yeah, big topic.
It is a big topic, and we're chatting about it this morning and realized that we've been talking about all the things, all the challenges and the obstacles that starseeds can find themselves, experiencing here on Earth. And we haven't spoken about their traits and their abilities, which are the plus side of them being on Earth and what they have here to share with us, right?
Right, yeah. So we decided that this podcast will be a little bit more fun and a little bit more upbeat. Because being a starseed is amazing. We're going to talk about all the different starseed traits. We're going to take you for a little ride around the universe and look at some of the different planets and the starseeds that have inhabited them and their different traits. But we're going to start by talking about just like basically what a starseed is and why do we have starseeds on Earth at the moment, Suzy?
Oh, it's a very interesting question. So if you're tuning in for the first time, you're not sure if you're a starseed, the way I like to describe it to my clients is, us Earth people would typically describe a starseed as an old soul. So that's the first tip off. If you feel like an old soul in a young person's body, it's the first red flag, or maybe we'll call it a green flag. And basically, starseeds are souls that have incarnated on other planets, not just Earth. They've had lifetimes in civilizations and existences that have a higher density or higher vibration to Earth. So in the universe, the Earth is pretty much the lowest density that you can, incarnate into. And so, as we know, the journey of the soul is to ascend and, reach unity consciousness or, source energy. And so we have to go through all these growth and obstacles along the way. And basically what happens with a starseed soul is, they've come back in the ascension process. They've come back into a lower density into Earth, and it goes against the natural law of things in terms of the evolution of the soul. So why would a soul want to go backwards? Basically what happened is there was a call that went out through the universe from Source or God, okay? And God said, your brothers and sisters on Earth are struggling and they're going through a big ascension. They need a shift. Is there anybody in the universe who would like to volunteer and go backwards in the ascension process to a lower density and help them evolve? And all these beautiful little hands went up and said, send me there, send me there. So we've got a mixture of souls that are actually being born here, okay, incarnating into this existence, have gone backwards in the ascension process. So that's what we would call a starseed soul. They've come from a civilization with a higher vibration. They're advanced technically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, they're advanced, okay, energetically. So they come back here to, they go through the veil of forgetting because the density on Earth is so thick. And when they go through a number of catalysts that they write into their soul contracts for their existence here on Earth, they go inwards and suddenly awaken and remember their true self and their true essence. And they're then able to step into their purpose and remember what they're doing here. And most of the time, it's like, just be you, because you is at a vibration that the Earth needs, right? And that we're needing your light, we're needing your talent, your skills, okay? Most of the time, these starseeds have successfully undertaken a purpose off planet in another lifetime, and they're just translating that purpose here on Earth. So yes, if that's you feel like you're on a mission and you haven't quite got that yet, it's time for an awakening and an activation to get into purpose and in alignment with the light that you're bringing here on this planet.
Yeah. And I think what's super interesting too is we've sort of seen starseeds sort of incarnate in waves. It sort of started post-World War II. We had sort of the first wave come through, and then we've had second and third waves, and then now we're up to all the different waves of children coming in as well. And they've all the different waves have come in collectively with a purpose during that time period as well, which is super interesting. So some of the first waves came in to sort of set foundations up for the ascension that we're going through now. Other waves have come in to help activate, second wave came in to help activate the third wave, and we're probably third wavers. And then we've got all the beautiful children coming in as well. So it's been going on for such a long time, particularly in relation to the ascension process we're going through now and moving into the Aquarian age too.
Beautiful, beautiful. So that would be also, there's so many different labels for the new age, fifth density, 5D, the Aquarian age. We just finished the age of Pisces, right, Loren?
Yes.
So, if you've heard these terms being used, they all kind of signify the same thing, the great shift or the great awakening. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So some of the general starseed traits before we kind of get into some of the more unique traits are things like, and this is stuff we've talked about in our previous podcast, that feeling of not fitting in, feeling a little bit different, that feeling of being homesick, particularly if you're from a planet that no longer exists. So we'd be talking about our Lyrans and even those from a planet like Maldekeans, which was blown up as well, feel very homesick. Usually starseeds incarnate into challenging circumstances, right? So that could be like dysfunctional families. It could be having some sort of trauma throughout their life. It could be illnesses, things like that.
And they feel like the black sheep, right, Loren? They generally feel like the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, incarnating into families that they don't fit into, and sort of thinking, I can remember feeling like this as a 6-year-old. I remember, and I've got a lovely family, but they're very different from me. And I can remember as a 6-year-old looking at my parents going, they have no idea what they're doing. What am I doing here? Like, I'm just at this, like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's just a mess. Like,
you picked up on that at a young age.
Yeah. So it's that feeling of kind of going, oh my gosh, like what? Like, who are these people? Like, I love them, but it's definitely a challenge. And I guess too, we sort of see, particularly, this would be particularly specific to our generation or our wave that came in. We did have spiritual gifts as children. So we did come in with spiritual gifts, and then usually, and not for everyone, this is generalization, but usually that sort of would stop at puberty, and then it comes back at some point when you have a catalyst in your adult life. Was that your experience as well?
I felt like when I started school, all that sort of stuff switched off for me, like as in kindy here, like age 5, 6, whatever. But then for me, and I've been thinking about this all week, it's a good question. I think part of what turned me back on is my parents took me on a trip to Egypt. And as we know, there's a big energetic vortex there and a lot of spiritual activations and a lot of spiritual energy. You can go there, and if you've had a past life there like I have, you can have some sort of activation. And so I do recall being there and then waking up during the night and hearing my guides screaming at me really loudly and me freaking out and waking my sister up to tell her, oh my God, they're talking to me. Needless to say, the next day I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, that never shut it down. I was like, wow, what was that? So yeah, I felt like I came back online in my teens, but then kind of things subside, and then you're right, like early adulthood, things start ramping up.
Absolutely. Yeah, mine was more sort of it sort of was very active as a young child, and then sort of slowed down, definitely stopped with puberty, and then I would have been in my mid-20s when it sort of came back online again. And that was was through a life catalyst that happened that it sort of triggered.
Yeah, same. Yeah, definitely mid-20s back online again. Yeah, and you can go through so many awakenings in one lifetime, not just one. You can have 2, 3, 4. So yeah, that's normal, guys. So
yeah, I reckon I probably had about 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think I've had 3 as well.
Yeah,
I had about 3, and who's to say there's not more coming? We think we know, but the universe is like.
I'm sure there's more.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think really too. I think it's very dependent on how in alignment you are. Right. So I know when those big catalysts happen, they happen to bring me into alignment. They happened to help me jump timelines. So the more alignment you're in, I feel like the less intense maybe the catalyst will be.
I agree. If you're way off your path, you're going to get either, and I see this all the time, get fired, a redundancy, an illness, a divorce, and that stuff is what wakes you up snap sharp. If you're not on your path and on your mission and you've yet to wake up, those sort of things wake you up quickly, because you have to go inwards to decide what's important to you and who am I and how do I fit into this crazy world that doesn't make sense. Correct, Lauren?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that happens when we go through those big catalysts, and this is so important for awakening starseeds, is it gives you the opportunity to connect or reconnect with source. So I know in my experience, when I would go through my catalysts, I would very much be connected to source. And then sort of once things settled down, I was notorious for jumping back into my 3D life. I was like yo-yoing between like, am I going to do? No, I'm going to, it feels a bit safer. So I'll just go back to my old life and felt less connected to source. And so the catalysts for me were happening so that I would reconnect to source and awaken properly, basically.
Yeah. We need that spiritual recharge to get back onto your path. Yeah, makes
absolutely sense. Yeah. So we're going to talk about some of the different starseeds from some of the different planets around our universe. And we might start with the Pleaideans. We did do our first podcast on the Pleaideans. So if you haven't listened, jump on and have a listen to that. But I realised we didn't actually talk about any of their personality traits.
That's a good one. They're one of the most common starseeds I see here. But their energetic trademark is like, you can't get it wrong, right, Lauren?
Yeah, it's so easy to pick.
You know how it feels, and you're like, you cannot dispute. You can't dispute a starseed soul is a Pleaidean. Yeah,
they would probably be the easiest one to pick, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
you can just
100%.
So, and that's that's the energy that they're sort of carrying. So Pleaideans are very empathetic. They're, I guess, what sets Pleaideans apart from maybe some of the other starseeds are they're quite funny, aren't they, Pleaideans? They've got a really good sense of humour.
Yeah,
not that
they're
the
really
others
light, very bubbly.
They're bubbly, light, people. They like people, and even if they're introverts, they still enjoy people, right? So, like, I'm a massive introvert, but I still have large parts of my week where I need to be surrounded by people. And it's I think it's so funny. It's like that introvert extrovert thing. They're very chatty, very intuitive, very sensitive. And in terms of their gifts, we spoke about this before, they're master energy transmuters. So they're really good at transmuting energy. In terms of the type of healing work they do, it's more transmutation, I would say.
Yeah, and they bring a lot of light into the room. They walk in and the whole room lights up. People light up. A lot of them are light bearers, right? Yeah, they bring in the light codes and they literally light everybody up in a room.
Yeah.
Bring the best out of you.
Yeah, everyone loves hanging out with them. They're the best people to have at a party.
Absolutely. Very
They're
good
the party people. Yeah. And so in terms of what we sort of see work pathways with Pleaideans, it is very people focused.
Yeah, they have to be around people, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we were just talking about this before. So, you know, counsellors, psychologists, nurses, you know, any of our people sort of facing professions, marketing, you see them in sales, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. People facing roles. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
what about the Sirians, Suzy?
Okay, this is interesting because we get asked about the Sirians quite a bit because it's there's 3 planets that we know of in the constellation of Sirius. You've got this Sirius A, Sirius B, and Sirius C. Okay, so there's a couple of different there's a few different species on Sirius A, and the 2 that always come through that I've seen in the records would be the lion-headed feline humanoid beings, the lion, they call them the white lions or the Urmas, if you've heard of that, of Sirius A. And then coexisting with them on Sirius A would be the blue beings, the Sirian. They feel like they're so interesting. They feel very priestly to me, very, very spiritual energy. They're almost like the Yodas of the universe. That's like the best way I can describe them. Is that what you sense as well, Loren? They're very wise. Right? They've got a lot of spiritual wisdom. Okay. Whereas the lions are really interesting. Did you want to talk a bit about the lions of Sirius A?
Yeah, the lions are interesting. And I guess what's interesting about both of those beings, they feel very different from one another, don't they? So we've got these 2 beings that are coexisting on this planet, but they're so different. So the lions are, they're very army-like. So like warrior, army-like, very structured, and but in a gentle way. It's not aggressive.
Yeah.
So it feels.
What do you call them in Star Wars? The ones that they're with Yoda, like Obi-Wan type energy.
Yeah,
correct?
Jedi energy.
Yeah, Jedi.
Perfect.
That's the word.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so they've got that. Yeah, so they're they are really masters of themselves, the Sirian lions, and they have such a presence about them that I guess that the energetic code of the Sirian lions is you feel safe when you're around them. So it's a safe masculine energy. So not gendered. So it could come through as a male or a female, but it is a very masculine energy.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say it's interesting that the blue beings are more of the feminine energy, whereas the lion beings on that planet are more of the masculine. So we could probably conclude that Sirius A is like Earth, where they've got both the masculine and the feminine consciousness striving for balance, which I'm sure they have found because they're higher density than we are, right? They figured it out. I know the Pleaideans have figured it out, and they're trying to help us do the same. So where the divine feminine is rising, it's a whole nother podcast altogether, right, Loren?
But I think what the Sirian lions do well too is you'll sort of find them they're really good at embodied practices. So things like martial arts, any of the movement practices, they're great body workers, you know, so we see them come in as massage therapists or physios or even acupuncturists, stuff like that.
Qigong is another big one.
Breathwork practitioners. Or they like doing that as hobbies. They might not do that for a job, but that's the practices that they embody. So they're very I'd sort of say, I kind of say in terms of earth and sky. So I would say that the Sirian lions are very earth,
grounding.
In terms that they're grounded. Whereas maybe Pleaidians are more sky based.
Air, like, is that like air? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
up in the
Right.
upper chakras, kind of vibrating the upper chakras, on a different planet. So we can kind of see that happen too on Earth. In terms of counterparts, you might have a Pleaidean with a Sirian because they balance those energies out within each other, the Earth and the sky. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And they are one of the species, along with the Pleaideans, that had a lot to do with the seeding on Earth, we will mention. And Loren and I were discussing the origins of the feline Syrian lion, the white lions. And they've come over from the constellation of Lyra. We spoke about Lyra last week, didn't we, Loren?
Yes.
And so, having said that they've been in the Sirius constellation for quite a long time, but they did come over as pioneers from Lyra to kind of see what's going on the other side of the universe. And they settled in Sirius A and they stayed there. And of course, they get along so well with other species that exist in that constellation. So not to be confused between the Lyran felines, the Syrian lions. Yes, they're their ancestors, but they are kind of a civilization in their own right. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had so in my Pleiadian lifetime, I had a lot to do with Syrian lions on Alcyone. And the way that I have seen it in the records is there were armies of them basically on Alcyone doing different missions and jobs, and I was heavily involved in that and with them as well. So they did travel too, the Syrian lions, throughout the
traveling. They were like pioneers, right? Yeah. Okay, we've got to move on to our next Starseed. What's next?
We just talk about the Lyrans briefly. We did speak about them last week, but just Suzy, just in terms of like some personality traits and what they're good at.
Oh my goodness, they're amazing healers, the Lyrans. They're very warm souls, just like the feline cat. Slow moving, very in their flow. Very wise, take their time to think about things and then deliver. Very deep and meaningful personalities, but they are incredible at, like I said, energy healing, but reading people's energy fields, and just seeing the discrepancy between source energy and how that person is presenting, and understanding the traits or the blocks that are there that are needing in order for them to align at a higher vibration. So they are really good at giving advice to help people with energetic blocks and whatnot. They are master geneticists. So if you work in the field of biology or DNA, etc., and you're obsessed, you're a scientist, you could be a Lyran starseed, because they love talking about genes and how you can create via splicing and hybridizing genes and genetic deformities and that sort of thing. So they're into all of that. So let's not write off science as a typical Lyran choice of occupation. Okay, they love nature as well.
Yeah,
that's the one thing. You're just going to say that?
I was literally going to say that.
They need, because Lyra, like a lot of the planets in the constellation of Lyra had a lot of vegetation, especially Avalon. The planet Avalon had a lot of very fresh, vibrant vegetation. So they're nature children. Lyrans need to be outside. So if you're a Lyran, nature is your healer, and definitely an energy that you need to synergize with. A lot of grounding there.
Definitely
available.
They're very physical too, aren't they, Lyrans? They need a lot of physical activity. So Lyrans tend to be very sporty, or maybe not necessarily sportive, just active.
Oh my God, yes. I can't believe I forgot. This is a very important aspect of Lyrans. I had actually a client come in this morning who had a Lyran lifetime as well. And she was laughing and telling me, because I pulled a card for her that said, move your body. And then she started laughing and she said, I exercise 2-3 hours a day because I just can't get enough. I love it. And I'm like, oh my God, you're reminding me of myself. And she said, oh, well, I'm a Lyran Starseed and that's what we're like. And I said, oh my goodness, yes, that's exactly what you're like. And I was like, yep, everything has to work around my daily workout. And it's not like Pilates and yoga that we opt for. It's like HIIT. Yeah. It's like we need to shift that stagnant energy in our physical body. And so we do that through exercise, and it brings us so much more balance and clarity. So that's why I know I do it as a Lyran. I actually enjoy it. So most Lyrans love exercise, but it's the hard kind, not the slow kind.
Yeah, they're not doing like yoga and stuff like that. No. That's so funny. What about the Arcturians? We love the Arcturians, don't we?
I love them. I love them all, but just something so beautiful and soft and sweet and just so pure. Purity is the word that I would give the Arcturians, right, Loren?
Absolutely.
They're angelic. They're so beautiful. They don't look like a lot of the other star seeds, do they? Do you want to describe what they look like?
Oh well, they've got the blue tinged skin. They do look very You go.
They look like aliens, like actually the ones you see in the X-Files.
They look like proper aliens. So when I see them come through, they look like hardcore aliens. Basically, and they're fifth dimension. They're just so wise. They've just got this energy about them of being so wise. And they make you sort of, if you ever get to meet one in human form, which we're fortunate enough to have a couple around us, which is really amazing, you will have the most amazing conversations with Arcturians, and they will make you think about things in such a different way. So I think like I'm playing out my Pleaidean template, and Pleaideans are beautiful, but they can be quite naive too. We've got a naivety about us. And I have these conversations with my Arcturian friend, and the other day I said, oh my God, you're making my brain hurt. Like, this is amazing. Like, my brain's not even capable of thinking that way. So they're here to kind of, I feel like they're here to really awaken us. Even those of us that are awake, they awaken us further.
They're actually, Loren, one of the highest vibrating species in our universe. They're actually way higher than the 5D. I would say they're at least 7.
Wow.
They're huge, and I wouldn't be surprised if they exist in etheric form now. But what a lot of people know about the Arcturians is they've got a really important job, and one of them is as keeper of the Akashic records. So they've got a stargate over in the Bootes constellation where Arcturus resides. Their planet Arcturus resides, and that stargate is a portal to the next universe. And so they protect that portal and look after it, but they're also being charged by Source with the responsibility of looking after all the information and the records that exist in the universe. And we spoke about the Akashic records last week, right? So that's a big task, and they have been attacked numerous times by the Reptilians because they've got the records and they've got the Stargate. So they have a lot of knowledge. This is why when you talk to them, it's like they blow your mind, because they're tapping into knowledge that, we don't have access to, and they've had access to in lifetimes that we can't even imagine. So they're so amazing to talk to.
Yeah, and so there's such an integrity with them as well. I would say they do everything with such integrity, and that sort of sense of responsibility too. Yeah,
absolutely. They're incredible healers, so they are very, very powerful when it comes to energy and shifting large amounts of energy and bringing in high vibrational energy. I think I was telling you this story the other day that whenever I'm like, one of my kids is as an Arcturian lifetime, and whenever I'm unwell, he senses it and he'll get up during the night, and he doesn't usually wake up during the night, and he'll come to my room and I can see him with my third eye with his Arcturian, healing guiding group, wherever they are, his guide group. and they're all giving me a healing. Like he touches me and he heals me, and I feel so much better in the morning. And I'm just like, what? Everyone needs an Arcturian friend or Arcturian relative.
I agree. Yeah, find yourself an Arcturian. They're a keeper.
They definitely are. They're
So funny.
amazing.
What about the Andromedans?
Oh, they're not as common. They're not as common. So Arcturians aren't that common either, but the Andromedans are interesting, right, Loren? They've got more of that feminine consciousness. What is it that you were describing them to be before? Like, I thought that was a great description.
They've got like a Disney vibe. It's like the Disney.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of Andromedans, I think of Disney princesses, or Tinkerbell or Alice in Wonderland. That sort of like Disney kind of quality. It's got a real feminine sort of energy, hasn't it?
They do. The whole planet is a feminine consciousness based planet. And so one of the things they do really well with this feminine energy is create. And they've created they're known as having the best spacecraft in the whole universe. But they're so benign and they're so giving, so that when other species come in and say, oh, what is it that you've made this month? They're like, oh, do you want some? We'll make you some. Whatever you want, we'll create, because we love creating. That's our purpose, you know?
So giving, aren't they? They're so giving. It's kind of like a bit like that kind of Labrador energy, you know, like just like, you know, very kind of extroverted giving, I would say.
Definitely. They've got these spacecrafts that look like major cities, you know, in the space. Like they could live on their spacecrafts for zillions of years. So that's how amazing that they are. Yeah,
just incredible. And what about the Mintakans? They're an interesting one, aren't they? I don't know much about them.
It is interesting, Loren, because the ones that I have met, they've got a really, really common trait between them, and they have this sadness and longing for home, like you would not believe. I met one once and he was all the way in Denmark, I think. Middle-aged man, like in his 50s, was randomly scrolling podcasts and was listening to a podcast on starseeds in Mintaka that come from Mintaka, and they were describing the Mintakan, planet, and he burst into tears, and he didn't even know what a starseed was, and he was crying and crying and crying, and that's when he found me. And so the thing with Mintaka is it was like an oasis, a heavenly oasis. It was a very aquatic planet. So a lot of aquatic aquafarian beings were in existence, but the mystical, magical, aquatic beings that we know about, such as the mermaid, what else? Like the ones that you read about in storytelling, you're like, oh yeah, that's just a myth. They are from our collective memory, from people who have had lifetimes in Mintaka. And Mintaka is in the Orion constellation. But what I believe happened to their planet is it went through a full life cycle, which planets can do. And so it kind of just disappeared, apparently, is what I've heard. I mean, I haven't seen this myself in the records, but it's stuff that I've read from other sources. But I do know that Mintakans in generally feel like, I need to go home, I've lost my home, and they feel like a fish out of water here on Earth. And they either have issues with their feet, or they feel uncomfortable in their shoes and need to take their shoes off, and they kind of long for the water. Water is very healing for them. So if you suspect you might be Mintakan, having regular baths and being in the ocean would be very healing for you. They're very dreamy characters. Oh goodness, we could go on. We've got to move on. We've got to move on to the next one. Maldek, right?
Yeah. So Maldek is no longer in existence.
This planet blew up though, didn't it?
Yeah.
Did they have some sort of civil war? I think what happened is they reaped a lot of the resources, and then there was a war or something over resources, and they blew themselves up.
And
Something like,
technology, so it was tech-based. So they were really sort of advanced with their technology, and they're probably a little bit similar to what was going on in Atlantis in terms of the dark side of technology, and that's sort of what happened there. And then the planet blew up. So when we have Maldax on Earth, they do tend to have a very tech focus, innovative technology focus.
I had a client once who came in for an Akashic reading that had been on Maldek, and something very interesting came up now that you're jogging my memory, that there was at some stage, like you said, a very high-tech civilization, but I think they reaped well into their resources, and they kind of just, some of them left, okay? But at one stage, Maldek was like the Australia of the universe. So if you were mucking up on the other planet, whichever it is that they moved to, they shipped you to Maldek to be under, kind of quarantined from the rest of the civilization so that you wouldn't cause trouble. For the they kind of put you in the sin bin of planets, and the sin bin of planets was Maldek. And when I saw it, it was very barren. Desert-like, red sand, cavernous, shallowed out cavernous caves. So it was very dusty looking, right? And my client had been on there with a group of them, and it was like something out of Mad Max. It was like a struggle to survive. They dropped them off resources, very minimal resources. They had them under surveillance. That's the other thing. And at some stage, they revolted, the people on Maldek, against, the elites. And there was a lot of breakouts of war and rioting and etc. And I could see that scene. And, they would take out the offenders onto craft, and then they would rehabilitate and try to, quarantine them from the rest of the people on Maldek, and then, get punished or something, and then they'd send them back down again. And so there was a real, like you said, Atlantean energy, where it's like, we are controlling you via our technology and you must stay down there. And it's an interesting one, Laura.
So interesting. We could probably do a whole podcast about it.
Yeah. It's had a long history. And it had a lot to do with Earth too. It comes up in the Dolores content quite a bit, Maldek.
Super interesting. The Alpha Centaurians, so they're an interesting one. It's not ones that I know a lot about. What I do know about Alpha Centaurians are their brains work so fast, so that can be challenging for them on Earth. So their brains work in a very different way to other people's, and they are very innovative with their ideas. So they come up with these amazing ideas that sort of are a bit ahead of their time. That's why we need them here, because they're going to help, build this new Earth with their ideas. But that can be incredibly challenging if they're not supported in that. And also if they don't have people around them that kind of understand that the way they think is different, but they are also very activating for people too, and they can be quite triggering for people as well. So they're a really, really interesting species. Rare.
They are rare. Yeah, they're absolutely rare. And I don't know if I should say this in public, but well, actually, it's been said in public before, and at first nothing bad has happened to them, so I'm going to repeat it.
It's going to come after you.
It's going to come after me. This civilization, the Alpha Centaurians, they made contact with our governments.
That's not surprised me at all.
Yeah, they wanted to make a trade. They had something that our Earth governments wanted, right? And we had something that we didn't really need that they wanted. It was like, I don't know, a mineral or something, right? And what happened was they figured out, because they're a benign species, high vibration, they figured out that the resource that they wanted, the Earth government wanted off them, they were going to use with negative intention. not to further their people, to suppress the people.
Right.
And so the Alpha Centaurians pulled out of that deal, and they said, hell no, we will not give you X, Y, Z so that you can further suppress your people. The deal's off the table. And so then the earthly governments were like, well, you will not step foot on here. You're not allowed here. Get out. And so what they've cleverly done is they've sent Starseed souls to be incarnated here, and they keep very close tabs on them. So there's like a constant information exchange in the dream state, but they even they mark them so they can pick up on information. So they're like spies.
Yeah. That
resonates.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
You and I have a joint client from here, and this particular client, again, feels like I don't belong here. I shouldn't be here. Why did you bring me here? Take me back home. Because they know they're not welcome here. And if they get found out, they're in trouble. Because the earthly governments know about them. They don't want them here. Because they could get them into a lot of trouble if they tell their people, the humans, what they're up to.
Yeah. That persecution wound. I know. Quickly, we'll just talk about, while we're talking about this stuff, we'll just have a little quick chat about the reptilians, and then we're going to finish up, I think.
Yeah, good idea. Let's do that. Go for it.
Basically, we do, when we're talking about starseeds, like some starseeds are malevolent, and the reptilians are a species that sort of fall under that umbrella. So they're a service to self, and very kind of about control and manipulation, and sort of self-seeking. So they always want something, don't they? The reptilians, basically. Yeah. But in saying that too, and this is what's really interesting, they can kind of contradict in a way. Some reptilians can be very powerful healers, but if they haven't done the inner work and kind of integrated those shadow aspects of themselves, they will always be working from a place that is serving them, not others.
Yeah, and they fall into the false lighting, or the spiritual abuse that we know unfortunately exists in the spiritual industry. So it's very important to practice discernment. Technically, if you feel like somebody is really serving your highest purpose, then stick with them. If you feel like there's an energy of self-serving, get out of there, because they can be powerful in what they do, and they drain of your energy. So look, we will probably have to talk about the reptilians quite a few more times. But not all of them are bad. Some of them are starting to switch, as we know, into service to others. So let's not write them all off just yet. So if you have had a lifetime as a reptilian, guys, don't write yourself off. Some of them are switching, and eventually once all beings hit the sixth dimension, they have to switch to service to others. Otherwise they can't ascend and reach unity consciousness, reach oneness with the creator. So eventually they're bad now, and a few more lifetimes, who knows, they might start switching and get into the positive. So there's hope for all beings in existence.
Absolutely. So next week we're going to talk about, this is a big topic. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And it's sort of a lot of my work over the past few years has been about this, and it's the narcissist empath relationship.
Oh my goodness. I think everyone listening is like, I know a narcissist.
I've been in a relationship with one. So we're gonna unpack that and really do a deep dive into that. And it is something that does very much affect starseeds.
Yeah, it's a very common dynamic, isn't it?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wrap things up, and we'll look forward to sharing more with you guys next week. Thank you, everybody who sent through feedback and messages. We love that you're enjoying the podcast so much. We love sharing information, so we'll be here doing this every week now. So any suggestions for topics you want us to discuss are always welcome. Peace out.
See you next time, guys.
Have a good
Bye.
week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.